remember, it was the winter of 97. So we all know what happened that spring. But one of the huge blizzards we got, we had snow that was so far up on the side of our house that we couldn't get out of our garage. And so for 2 hours, little tiny 7th grade JJ, my sister, my mom, and my dad shoveled and shoveled. We had barely made a dent in the snow when all of a sudden a rumbling from down the street starts coming our way. It's a good friend of my parents who ran a construction company, and he had a payloader, and he made short work of getting our driveway cleared. And I'm not saying that he is a saint, but if they're accepting any applications, that guy definitely deserves it.
Well, I was a kid, I was probably I think it was in 4th or 5th grade, and I was always a paper boy. And the paper came out of the Twin Cities, Minneapolis Tribune, and then there was the Star Tribune, which was a day paper, okay? And that would come in by train, 2-line train to my hometown of Thief River Falls. And this blizzard started, actually, I guess you could call it a blizzard or a major storm. It's recognized as a major storm in 1966, and it was in March. And it covered much of North Dakota. I was in northwestern Minnesota, and lo and behold, I picked up my newspapers in the paper bags that they'd give you, these big bags, and I thought, I got to get these papers out to my customers. And I was having big trouble, and I walked by one place where I was supposed to deliver the papers to these contractors, and the snow was already significantly deep, and I was trying to get up the steps to their big store, and I sank in it, and I couldn't get out. And it was, you could hardly see, probably, I don't know, not very far. It was a big, big store. And they finally saw me outside, and they came and rescued me. I was carrying these huge these bags, and my papers were all full, and they got me out and made sure I got home, because they said, Donald, you do not have to deliver papers today, which, and I still remember it. I don't know if I was scared or just, I thought, what's going on here? I am like sinking in quicksand, except it's snow. There you go.
My favorite blizzard memory. It's not really a favorite, but I was born in the blizzard of 1997. January 2nd to be exact. My mom was living for it. We got stuck in the hospital for 3 days, and then 3 months later, I got to ride a jet ski as a 3-month-old. So not really a memory, but it was kind of wild the way I was born. I would say the thing I remember most just about blizzard days growing up, we lived out on a farm, and we would go sledding across the hill, and my mom would tell us not to go down to the river, but we usually did. Don't tell her.
When I was in my 20s, I lived in Lake Tahoe in California, and I worked at a pizza place. And one morning I got up, and it was not too bad, but it was starting to blizzard a little bit. And so I went into work at the pizza place, and I worked all day at the pizza place. And as I worked, of course, 6 feet of snow fell that day in the period of like 12 hours. And so I got home, I managed to make it home on the roads, and I got home and I lived in this little one-room cabin, tiny little one-room cabin, and I had a dog and a cat in there, and I had to get them in, get them walked, get the dog walked. And I drive into my little driveway, which had been plowed, but the plow had plowed in my entire cabin. Like there was a snowdrift as tall, higher than the roof of my cabin. And I was standing there trying to figure out how I was gonna get in to my house, and I could hear the dog barking, and the neighbor who lived in the little cabin next to mine, exactly the same, came out of his, which he had dug a little tunnel, and he was like, there's a little space in between the cabin and the snowdrift. You have to climb up to the top and just drop in. And so I was like, well, how do I climb up? And he goes, you gotta Spider-Man it. And so I took a running jump, and I just stuck to the edge of the drift, and then I scrambled up to the top, and sure enough, there was about a foot that you could just kind of drop in, and I got in, and then of course my shovel was inside, so I shoveled out, and that's how I got out, and so that was my exciting adventure.
Blizzard memory. I think anyone that grew up in this area of the Red River Valley remembers the 96, 97 winter, tons of days off of school. Losing power in that April ice storm. For us, a little further away from the river, it was only a few days, but for a lot of people I went to school with, it was weeks. But yeah, just hunkering down. When you grow up on a farm and you have livestock, these blizzards become even more dangerous because you're not just making sure that you and your family are okay, but you want to make sure those animals are okay. For whatever reason, it always seemed like the worst weather was when the animals decided to escape from their enclosures rather than hunker down. So lots of memories of moving snow on the farm, of chasing around pigs and windy and snowy and cold weather. But yeah, that 96, 97 is always going to be the winter that everybody around here thinks about. And as a sixth grader at the time, it was memorable because it felt like we had about 4 days of school through the winter. So that was a good one.
Let me start by saying, wear your hats and gloves, kids. Back when I was in high school, it was around Christmas time. I don't remember the year exactly. Must have been 94, winter of 94, maybe 95. I decided that I wanted to go to Wishick, which is about 3 hours from here, 2:45 if you're booking. Don't do that.
Sausage or what?
No, we had I probably did, but I probably did get some sausage, but we had a family function there, and I had to be there. I had to be there. And so we had inclement weather, and I took off. My mom told me not to go, but I went anyway. And about, a mile west of Castleton, I started fishtailing. And, I was like 16 maybe, so I didn't know any better. So I just kept fishtailing until I spun in a complete circle. And as I came around and was facing the wrong way on I-94, a semi was barreling right at me. And I screamed a little bit and backed my way into the median of the interstate. Now, I didn't have any hat or gloves with me. And so I being 16, I thought, well, I can drive out of this. Yeah, I couldn't drive out of that. So I backed up and forward and up and forward, back and forward, back and forward. I couldn't get it done. So I got out, no hat, no gloves, and I don't know what the temperature was, but it wasn't warm. And tried then digging my way out with my bare hands, which obviously didn't work. And so thankfully some people had mercy on me as they were driving by and picked me up and brought me to Castleton. So I called a wrecker, and this was, maybe noonish, and the wrecker came, and from the time we got to where I was to the west of Castleton was about maybe 6 hours later, because he was picking up everybody else, dragging them out of the ditch on his way to getting me. And so, yeah, no hat, no gloves. Wear your hat and gloves. You know what? You don't have to wear them. Just have them along in case you need them.